And in this video, I'm going to be thoroughly addressing this particular article put out about our family's project, the QEG, by the metabunk.org website and its author, Mick West. All right, so let's walk you through what happens when you type QEG into a search engine. And it's been like this for the last 4 years. So you get some videos up top, but the very first site that always comes up is the metabunk.org website. And then after that is our website. So Metabunk has always been at the top of the search engine, and it's this one particular article. And this article gets posted all over the place as a response whenever someone tries to share the QEG information and say, hey, check out this project. Someone always finds this this website here, which is a forum, and they post this particular link. So I want to just take a look at it quickly so you can see what I'm talking about. Metabunk is run by a guy named Mick West, and we're going to get into him in just a second. But you see that supposedly it's an entire website about debunking, and this article shows my family and our device, and then this is Mick West. And what happens is he puts together this picture. Now, debunking is supposed to be that you're proving something out to be false. But if we take a really honest look at this, what we're going to find is that Mick West, his background, I'll get into in a second, but he's a video game programmer that had a big company, and he sold the company, and he made a lot of money from the sale of the company, and he's retired now. And this is information he's put out there publicly. So he doesn't need to work. He doesn't like do any kind of job or anything. And this is his hobby, is debunking things. But he's a video game programmer. That's his background. He's not an engineer. He's not a doctor. He's not a scientist. He's not a meteorologist. He does not have any of those skill sets. He does not have that experience, and he does not have that knowledge. So when he goes through the QEG, you can see very clearly that he's quite ignorant when it comes to engineering. He thinks he knows what this device is, but he doesn't actually understand it at all. So let me explain first, okay, because this picture that he put all of his own words over, this is our device. This is our family's invention device that we've been working on very hard for the last 4 years to create an alternative form of energy known as resonance. And I'm not going to go into the real depth of what the technology behind resonance is, but we do have a movie that we made that you can watch for free on our website, cleanenergyacademy.com. And in that movie, I do go in depth with what resonance is. It's a scientific phenomenon. It's called mechanical resonance. And when you basically create this in a machine system, like what this is, it generates a lot of electricity. And it's not something that's made up. It's a real scientific phenomenon that has been studied in depth for decades. And I'm going to show you in a second that NASA scientists and engineers have actually been studying resonance. So it's a very real thing. But you see, Mike West doesn't understand this. So he wrote this stuff on this picture. So first and by the way, this is his debunking. This is what he considers proving it to be false, is by making a bunch of opinions about something that he doesn't understand or know anything about, and he says that that's debunking it. He calls this here a regular generator with some bits and bobs. And we actually kind of like laughed a lot at that because bits and bobs is very technical. If I went to Alibaba and I needed to find a specific engineering part, is that what I would type into a search, bits and bobs? What size bits and bobs? Right? So anyway, a regular generator. This is not a regular generator. It's very specific. It's a resonance generator, but he doesn't understand what resonance is. Let's see. At no point does he unplug it, right? So that's a big thing he's got here too. Like down here is this picture where he's like, it's plugged in the entire time. He does not understand this machine. He does not understand this project. He does not understand that it's in development and that the power is being generated from here. He doesn't understand how the system works. All of that is very, very thoroughly described in our website. We've done years and years of research at this point, and we provide backup documentation showing what everything is and what everything means. Mike doesn't do that. He just says it's a generator with bits and bobs. Now down here you'll see where he goes through describing. So he goes, all he's demonstrating is that he's assembled the machine. Achieving resonance sounds very new age, right? So he puts that in quotations because he doesn't know that it's a scientific concept, that it's a scientific thing that's been done with machinery, because he's not an engineer. But because he doesn't understand it, he labels it as new age. Here's a schematic of the device. The red circuit is the actual generator. The green circuit is a resonance circuit, a quote-unquote tank circuit that will store energy but not create energy. See, again, this is why we don't give the plans away for free anymore. It's because people like this guy take the schematics and he puts all of his own markings all over it to completely confuse people. He does not understand this machine at all, but he's acting like he does. He says it doesn't create energy. A resonant tank circuit generates electricity. That's what happens. It generates so much electricity that people have a really hard time controlling the power. So that's the bulk of this. Now this particular forum, it's him, he wrote that. The rest of it, all of this other stuff on this forum is just a whole bunch of mostly anonymous people just writing their opinions. So that is his way of debunking something. And as you can see down here, he says all he's doing is spinning it up fast enough so that the generator circuit will light the bulbs and the tank circuit is resonating. It's unclear to me if the tank circuit does anything. So he even says that it's unclear to him if it does anything because he doesn't know. Again, doesn't know. Let me show you some folks who do know. Okay, this is a paper right here from the Lawrence Radiation Laboratory and NASA. So scientists at NASA and Livermore Research Laboratories conducted extensive experiments on resonance machines just like the QEG. And they did this back in the 1960s. And in these experiments, these devices generated so much power that they had a hard time controlling it. What you're looking at here is the actual documentation from this research done by these NASA scientists over at Livermore and NASA, Russian scientists as well, right? So I'm not going to go through this paper because we've already gone through this paper. And you can go, if you want, to the Clean Energy Academy. We had a live call called The Phenomenon of Resonance, where we go over this paper in depth and we present our research and our findings that explain what resonance is, how a group of these scientists worked on this resonance, which is the same technology utilized in the QEG. These people were very qualified. They were NASA engineers. So they obviously knew what they were doing, and their findings were quite astounding. They had a really hard time controlling the amount of power that was being generated from this resonance phenomenon. So if NASA scientists had a hard time controlling the power, well, so are we, and that's the issue that one of the issues that we've been having on this project is that the resonance is so real that we're having a hard time figuring out how to control it so that we can redirect it into what we want it to be. So I'm really glad I had the opportunity to address these particular pictures right here, because these pictures have been copied and reposted on websites and other forums and in comment sections all over the internet as some sort of proof to debunk the QEG. And all that this proves is that Mike West does not understand engineering at all. But I want to look a little bit into his website just to give people an understanding of where this information is coming from. This website, Metabunk, the whole thing is meant to debunk things. So, but here's the thing, when I look at Metabunk, I look through all of these forums, I see that their main focus are around the following perspectives. So things like there's no such thing as chemtrails, and they're not spraying any chemicals into the sky or doing any kind of geoengineering. That doesn't exist. Another one is that there's absolutely nothing wrong with vaccines, and they don't have any bad side effects whatsoever, and there's no studies that prove that anything bad happened with vaccines. There's a huge section that basically says that every single alternative or natural medicine or remedy or therapy, all kinds of natural medicines, that none of them work, that they're all bogus, and that the only thing that works are pharmaceutical drugs. There's also sections talking about how the U.S. government has never mismanaged or misplaced any large amounts of money. There's no such thing as microwaves or energy weapons. That's completely made up. There's nothing wrong with GMOs, GMO food. They don't create any kind of adverse health effects. GMOs are perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with fluoride. Fluoride doesn't cause Alzheimer's or anything like that. Fluoride is completely safe and not poisonous. Another topic I see a lot of is the official 9/11 story that we were told. That's absolutely true, and nothing else happened that day. So these are the types of posts that he's got. This whole site is dedicated to debunking, as they put it, debunking conspiracy theories. But all of those things have a lot of documentation behind them, and there's a lot of people that are quite upset about those particular things that are happening in society. So basically, there's also a lot of very, very negative information that's out there. I won't go through it, but if you just type in something like Metabunk disinfo or Mick West disinfo, there's a bunch of people that have written articles about him that were very angry at him because he just lies, and he got caught in a couple of big lies. His biggest one was the chemtrails, right? I'm going to give you one example, though. This is an open letter right here, because Mick West came out and he has a whole section basically saying that there's no such thing as chemtrails, and he put out this like scientific paper. Again, the guy is a video game programmer. He's not a scientist. He's not a doctor. He's not a meteorologist. He's not a mechanical engineer. He doesn't have any of those skills or qualifications. But he put out this paper because, you know, he's a retired businessman who has a lot of money to live off of and a lot of time, and this is his hobby. He says that this is his hobby. So he put this paper out. Now, this guy, okay, let's look at the bottom of this. This was written by a PhD. Okay, and I do have respect for people who have invested that much time and effort into their education. I myself have an MBA, so I know how much work it can be. My mother has a PhD, so it's really, I understand the amount of skill and that you have to put into that. So this PhD person has all of these exhibits, all of these different articles and peer-reviewed papers that he wrote about chemtrails and the damage of chemtrails and other people, and he's basically coming out and saying that Mick West, along with some of these other people, Christine Shearer and Ken Caldera, they wrote this paper, Environmental Research Letters, which was a 9-page letter entitled Quantifying Experts' Consensus Against the Existence of a Secret Large-Scale Atmospheric Spraying Program. So basically, they were trying to debunk chemtrails. And I'll leave the link to this maybe in the description, but you can read through it, and this guy was basically just calling Mike West out as a liar because he was given evidence, documentation, proof, peer studies. He was given all of the facts and all of the evidence, and he just basically ignores it and says there is no evidence, there is no proof, there is no peer-reviewed studies. And so this guy in this letter is actually saying, yes, there are. I gave them to you. You ignored them. So if you see right here, in this part, there's a lot in this letter, but he says that this letter states that there's no peer-reviewed studies in the scientific literature addressing SLAP. That is not true. 2 ERO authors, Ken Caldera and Mike West, were aware of my peer-reviewed article, okay, etc., etc. And it says here, on June 25th, author Mick West lied about the content of said current science article in a posting on metabunk.org. This is one example of one person that is calling him out for just clear out lying about his information or denying it. I found some other links as well where people are having the same exact argument, and a lot of people are calling him a shill. There's videos out there as well. I just want to focus on this concept that he runs this website. And the whole purpose of the website is to say that all of these things that the public has an outcry against, that all of them are not true. And a lot of people have accused him of protecting pharmaceutical companies, protecting big oil interest, protecting things like, you know, Monsanto. And you can see how this definitely would be that kind of agenda, because all of the articles on here say that anything against Monsanto is not true and Monsanto is good, etc., etc. So I just want you to see where this comes from. If you're going to be sending us a link saying, well, Metabunk debunked the QEG. Metabunk did not debunk the QEG. Metabunk wrote an article with a bunch of opinions about what they thought the QEG was, and that they said that they didn't think it was going to work or that it was real. There were some insults in that article as well, a lot of insults accusing us of all kinds of things that were not true. But that's not debunking. They did not prove anything out to be false. All they proved is that they don't have any understanding about the machine, or shall I say, Mick West does not have any understanding. He's not an engineer. He does not know what he's talking about. However, this site is continuously being ranked as #1 in Google search engines. I personally feel that the site is ranked up there because there's a darker agenda behind this particular debunking site. There's nothing really positive about it. The whole thing is to try to silence public outcry against very important issues.